All right, let's see if this works now, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about that. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. There we are. Technical difficulties earlier in the show. I apologize for what had just transpired. I'll make sure I delete that show as we get in here. How am I sounding now, ladies and gentlemen? How am I sounding now out there? Let me know. I should sound a lot better. I found out what the problem was. All right. Thanks, Barbara. Thank you. Found out what the issue was. You know, these things happen. Had a camera plugged in because I was doing a video earlier. Actually, I was editing a video for the documentary that we're doing on the church, and I had one of the cameras plugged in, and lo and behold, that was using the microphone for that and not my microphone here. So hopefully I'm coming over loud and clear for everybody. Again, I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. So the show must go on as it always does. All right, I'm going to post this real quick on the Facebook page so everybody can get this. Again, I apologize. You guys known me for a very long time. I pride myself on my sound, and one of the things that my professionalism as well. And when things don't go according to plan, it is what it is. But anyhow, all right, good to see everybody back. I'm not going to go through the intro again. You guys know www.ghostopsparanormal.org. Got a lot of stuff coming up here in the near future. The great thing is the church will be back in the scheme of things around the April time frame. So you'll be seeing us doing a few other investigations inside the church. We got a great guest tonight, a really good friend of mine, a psychic medium who has been featured, and her daughter has been featured on Travel Channel's Psychic Kids. So looking forward to talking with her here in just a bit. But as you know, I start the show out. Each and every show, I start out with a little bit of a rant or a story to lead up into the regular show. So we'll get to Chris in about 5 minutes. I was asked this just recently by a friend of mine. He said, why? And I want the honest answer. Why did you get into the paranormal? And why are you so fixated on being serious about this genre, knowing that I'm, what I do in politics and how established I am in politics and how good I am at that? Why did I kind of go and dive into the paranormal on this side? Well, to tell you the truth, one day I decided I wanted to do something different. Chad hit me up and said, hey, you want to start? Or actually, I put out a little thing about a paranormal group, wanted to start a paranormal group. He hit me up. We got together, and next thing you know, Ghost Ops. Well, it was Ghoul then it became Ghost Ops. But what got me into this? Something happened to me when I was a little child that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. It was so, I don't want to say it was traumatic. I was a curious kid. All right. Even things didn't scare me too easy. I mean, the normal stuff did, kids are normal, scary stuff did. But I was more curious about things around me more so than anything. So we used to live in this house. This apartment complex. Two things happened in this apartment complex that I cannot explain, and nobody has been able to explain to me to this day. Okay. I got my theories behind one, but the other one, I have no freaking clue. I've never really talked about this to anybody, so I guess I'm kind of opening up to you guys tonight here. So you get a little bit of background on why and why I'm doing what I am doing and why Ghost Ops is so important to me and why the paranormal is so important to me. When I was a child, I remember I was about 6 years old. My sibling, she was a year younger than me. She was 5. We remember it just as it was yesterday. Okay. We were sitting underneath the kitchen table, and there was these two faces on the wall. There was a black face with white eyes, just regular eyes. It almost reminded me of a cartoon type face or a movie type face that was on the wall. And there was a white one that was on the wall as well. And again, the face, it had like a little nose. You could see the nose, the eyes, and the mouth. It almost reminded me of like watching a movie. All right. And I cannot remember what we were talking about. I cannot remember what we were saying. I do remember I was talking to the white face, and my sibling was talking to the black face. Can't remember what was said. I remember my aunt Lori was there, and my mother was there. And every time we brought this up to them, both me and my sister confronted both of them face to face as we grew up throughout the years, and this happened numerous times. We confronted them and said, "Hey, you were there. What was this? What did we just experience? Was it something? Were you guys messing with us?" Because we remembered it vividly, and we still remember it vividly today. But we can't explain it. And every time we ask them about it, every time we ask my mother or my aunt about the faces on the wall, they totally change the subject. You can tell they get nervous every time we mention it. You can tell that whatever happened that day was not only a traumatic experience for us. Well, I mean, it wasn't like traumatic, but again, we were curious kids back then. At least I was. But it was traumatic for them because they did not want to talk about it, and they changed the subject every time my sister and I broached the subject. Same house. Fast forward about a year later. I was maybe about 6 months later. I was almost 7. It was right before my 7th birthday. I remember because my grandfather was getting me a big wheels, and I was wanting the big wheels for a long time, and he said you couldn't have a big wheels until you were 7 years old. So that's how I remember it was my 7th birthday, and that was one of his birthday presents he was going to get for me. It was a big wheel, and or the green machine, if you guys remember what the green machine is. Now I'm showing my age here. So anyhow, that night prior to that, prior to my grandfather coming over, we lived in, again, we were on the 3rd floor of this apartment complex. So it was more like almost like a townhouse / apartment complex. And I lived with my mom, and my aunt lived with us at the time as well, and plus my siblings. I had 2 other siblings, Shannon, who she was way young, can't remember anything. I think she was 2 or 3 years old, and my sister Amy, who was just a year younger than me. But anyhow, this happened to me personally. My bedroom had like a 90-degree angle, and there was a window on either side of this angle. Okay, and my room was like an L shaped. So I'm laying in there one night, and my mom, she used to lock the door on us because the kids would, we would all get out and raid the refrigerator in the middle of the night. And, she was young. She had her snacks there, and she didn't want us to mess with any of her stuff. So, she would often lock the doors at night on us, especially when we were being bad. So that particular night, she happened to do that. And I was lying in bed, and I looked up at the window. Now, granted, we live on the 3rd or 4th floor. I can't remember exactly what it was, 3rd or 4th floor. I'm looking at the window, and I hear this voice, real deep, real guttural. And it scared me at first. And like I said, I was more of a curious kid back then. But I heard this voice say, "You need to go to sleep," or "You have to go to sleep." That's what it said. "You have to go to sleep. You have to go to sleep." And, I kind of pulled the covers aside a little bit and was like, "Who is there?" I yelled, "Who is there?" And of course, my mom in the kitchen, or she was in the kitchen at the time, and my bedroom was adjacent to the kitchen. She yelled, "Go to bed," or "Go to sleep." She yelled, "Go to sleep." And I'm like, "Somebody's in here with me." And she didn't believe me. Okay. So she left the kitchen and went into her bedroom, and, she thought the kids were playing, the kids were being kids and trying to get out, because we were hard to put to bed at night. So again, as I said that, the shadow figure it looked like it was floating, okay, on the air. Again, we were 3 floors up, or 4 floors up, 3 or 4, I can't remember off the top of my head, but anyhow, it was very far. And I'm sitting there thinking, how the heck is this person out there knocking on my window telling me that I need to go to sleep? So I get up to go around to the other side to look, because you can still see where the window is. And I look over to see, and this, whatever it is at that window, and it yelled at me loud, "I thought I told you have to go to sleep," or "I thought I told you to go to sleep." Scared the living hell out of me. I ran back to the bed, pulled the covers up over my head, went to sleep. Next morning, talked to my mom about it. She seemed a little nervous again about it. But she chalked it up as me having an overactive imagination, and she told me, "No, that was just Superman. Don't worry about it." So, well, Superman looks kind of funny, Mom. So those were the reasons that I got into the paranormal. Of course, other experiences that I've had throughout my lifetime had led me to where I'm at today. And I think as time progresses, as time goes on, you're steered. I think the universe steers you in one direction or another. And fortunately, we've met some great people, not so great people, and we met some really great people in this industry. And one of them I'm going to have on here in just a minute. Jessica Sylvia, Karen, Brendan, what's going on? Getting Insane, Deb, Christy, JR, County Line Area Paranormal. How are you? That's Brady. How's everybody doing tonight? Great to see you in chat. If you haven't already hit that little heart button, give me some emojis. The more you talk in chat, the more emojis you give us, and the more little hearts you give us when the hearts pop up, the bigger and better it gets us out on the waves. So we appreciate that, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to have you on here tonight. So my friend Christy, who I'm about to unmute here, I've known her for a while now, and every time we talk, it seems that I have a whole new appreciation for mediumship. I'm gonna label it that, and she can correct me if I'm wrong. And when we get her on here, but she is she's taught me a little bit about it that I didn't know before. And I'm still skeptic. I'll always be a skeptic of mediums and psychics, and only because of the entertainment side of the house. But I will tell you, the times that she helped us with some of our investigations remotely were pretty spot on and pretty impressive. And she's kind of turning me around. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, Christy. How are you doing today, Christy?
I'm great. How are you?
Hopefully, I did my due diligence on my intro.
Yes, thank you for all the kind words. The only thing that was wrong was we were on A&E's version of Psychic Kids, not Travel Channel.
Okay, A&E. I'm sorry.
Not the biggest deal.
Gotcha. Yeah. A&E, ladies and gentlemen. A&E, if you ever want to go back. What episode was that? So in case the audience wants to go back and kind of check it out. You remember?
I think it was episode 4 of the latest season that aired in 2019. And it's on Hulu.
Oh, excellent! I'm definitely going to watch it. So, how have you been?
I've been great. Can everybody hear me? Okay. I saw Barb say I sound low.
Yeah, you sound great to me. Of course, I have headphones on, so I'm not sure. Barb, maybe you might want to turn your volume up a little bit. I'm not sure, but you sound great on my end.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Podbean doesn't let us turn our guests up and down like Spreaker does.
I've never had anybody tell me I need to be louder.
Barb, great to see you as well, Barbara. All right. So, well, let's get right into it. You call yourself a psychic medium or a medium. If anybody would talk to you, or if you would talk to anybody and they ask you, what exactly do you do for the paranormal field? What would you tell them?
For the whole paranormal field, that's a good question. I mean, first of all, I call myself an intuitive because I literally just know things, whether it's coming from a spirit or somewhere else, or just picking up on the energy of where I am. I just use my intuition. So I don't know that I mediumship as much as some other people do, like talking directly to spirits. When it comes to the paranormal, I like to investigate. I do that virtually, which is a little bit different than a lot of people do, at least for the last 2 years. I love historical research and tying things together with claims or even impressions that I get. I just like to dig. I like to go into rabbit holes. And I just care about spirits. That's the main thing, like just feeling that energy of kind of taking yourself back into the past and getting absorbed in it and trying to help if a spirit needs it, or, say a client or a person or, a business needs that. If I can help, I'd love to. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Right, right. And ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for Chris, let us know in the chat, and I will definitely ask her. So, what got you into the paranormal field? I mean, from what little bit I've talked to you and what you've told me, it was pretty interesting. But I want the audience to hear it from you. What was the driving point for you to say, "Yeah, I need to get into this field"?
Um, just being surrounded by spirits my whole life. Um, about teenage years, I'd say it really kicked into full drive, and I started to realize, holy crap, like I'm picking up on stuff that other people don't know, and the way they're looking at me, it looks like they're scared and this isn't normal. I started to figure that out around teenage years.
Mhm.
Yeah, teenager and high school years, dabbled around with things, stupid things like doing the Ouija board or uh, just reading a lot of different areas of the occult. And then by college age, I was taking mediumship practice classes and being a psychic and a medium. And then all the shows hit and kind of normalized it, where it wasn't normal before that to talk about
Right,
such things. And that was just like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is it. This is just something I want to do. So messed around with it a little bit back then, but we couldn't afford that kind of equipment,
right.
back in the early 2000s. So we're walking around with a camera and a Ouija board, basically. And then had kids and got out of it a little bit, just trying to be more of like a quote unquote normal parent. And then when Cassie ended up coming up with abilities, they very strongly around 7, there wasn't much denying it anymore. And it's like, well, this is just kind of where we fit in. And a lot of people may not like that, but that's okay. It feels like home to us to just always be involved in something paranormal.
So you said spirits around you. What do you mean by that? Like, is it? Do you actually feel them? Do you see them? Do you talk to them? Do you communicate with them? Do you just feel what they're saying? Because when I hear this a lot with folks that are intuitive, who are or mediums, or call themselves psychic. They say they're always around me. I always hear that. Elaborate on that, and then I'll get to
Uh,
Karen's question.
I have luckily learned how to block some of that out, but just as a kid, there'd be like an environment that I'd walk into and it'd be like overwhelmingly unwelcoming or overwhelmingly familiar, that I just felt kind of stuck there. Like I had to figure something out while I was there. There were times where I would hear spirits around me, not so much voices, but just like the noises that they were making, walking on the carpet in my room. Um, there were times, again, like teenage years where I saw my first full bodied apparition,
Oh, wow.
and just seemed like really easy for me to connect to the other side. And then I noticed the other people around me, not so much. And I just realized, I think I'm onto something here a little different. And there was just times where I would know something that I had no way of knowing and freak people out. So, for me, every psychic has different abilities
Mhm.
and strengths and weaknesses. And mine is not that typical psychic predicting the future or can hear them talking and see them everywhere. That's just kind of, I do things very different than that.
So Karen, I got two questions. We'll get to Brady's, but Karen asked you in chat, have you always had these abilities, or is this something? Do you feel you've always had them?
I feel like I've always had them to a degree, but teenage years really brought it out to like not being able to be ignored or explained away.
Mm-hmm. You think maybe puberty had something to do with that, or maybe you just didn't remember as much when you were a child?
Possibly just, yeah, like puberty or slash mental maturity and the ability to understand certain concepts.
Gotcha, gotcha.
But there's a lot of teenagers that's when it kicks in. And I just find it so funny that, my daughter was basically born with the strong abilities that it took me all those years to get to.
Mm-hmm.
So I just knew something was different about her when she's a little baby, looking
Right.
like she's communicating with the other side.
We'll get to her in a minute.
Yeah.
I want to concentrate on you, but I definitely we're going to talk about her. I don't want to ruin it. But again, so it developed over time in you, and we'll talk about your daughter in a few minutes here, and you feel like she was born with it. So there's a huge difference between the generational gap there.
Yeah, I think she just has stronger abilities than me and a more
Mhm.
supportive environment.
Oh yeah, that could be it too. I mean, I guess that's very important because, like you said, back then it was kind of a taboo thing,
Hmm.
and now today
And
it's
I
more
could
accepted.
recognize, what was happening in her because I had gone through it myself. And I was
Right.
just like upset, accepting of the whole thing and wanted to support her in it versus ignore it like we had growing up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, County Line area says, do you think mediumship is a predetermined gift or an acquired gift, as in people either have it or don't, or that people are able to develop it in time?
I'm a strong believer that everybody has the capability. It's just a matter of if they have the right mindset to exercise those muscles in the brain or access that part of their brain. You can work on it and develop
Mhm.
it. Some people are just born without the choice. Like they are. They
Right.
see, they feel, they hear, and that's kind of scary because they don't really have any control. But I think everybody can do it, and maybe not all the time, but I've seen regular old everyday people tap into it and do something and not even realize they just did something that is psychic or mediumship. They just don't recognize it when they see it.
So, what would be one of the telltale signs?
Uh,
Because a lot of these people, I mean, a lot of people listening, including myself, might just be going through the everyday motions, and something happens, and we might not notice it, like you said. So, I mean, what are one of the things that maybe if something would happen or transpire, that we could go, oh, I didn't notice that before until maybe Christy said something, and now I'm noticing it. So maybe that might help people notice more things.
I think it's really just a matter of how much you pay attention versus how much you convince yourself to ignore something or you think it's crazy or you talk yourself, there's that logic versus, um, that spiritual side of people. So people are just very logical and they can get hit in the head with a rock and
Right.
still think a bird dropped it on them instead of a ghost hitting them. It's like love, you can't explain love until you experience it and then you know what it is. And
Gotcha.
that's what having abilities is like. When it happens, you'll know.
Hmm.
You might
Okay.
think you're crazy, but you'll know something weird just happened.
Well, I've had a lot of things weird happen to me throughout my lifetime, but a lot of them I just chalked up as coincidental.
Yeah,
Um,
I think everybody does. Even I do that still.
so, take us through um, a night that you're. I know your friend Scott often goes out by himself, and you're doing it. You're reading virtually, or you're there with him virtually, feeling the place out, or the times when you were actually there in person. Take us through a session. What happens? What do you do? And what are some of the outcomes?
Well, first and foremost, I go in as an investigator when I'm with
Hmm.
Scott. I don't sit there and do some kind of ritual and open up and unless I'm asked to ahead of time,
Right.
tap into what could be there. So I just go in as an investigator and as he's walking through, it'll just I'll get a feeling, I'll get a sense that somebody's somewhere or Scott will tell you like there is just times where they're very persistent and will repeat, repeat, repeat either what they're saying or make me physically feel something until I say it. And that's them just being very persistent. They want that message to come across and I can't ignore it.
Right.
So I have to snap out of investigator mode and then try and get Scott to snap back to whatever location he was at, like 3, 4 feet down the hall or whatever, and address it. And then we'll see if we get activity with the actual equipment or an EVP or something that'll correlate to the information that I'm picking up on. And that's the gist of how we work. If I'm not getting messages, I'm an investigator. If I get messages, I'm doing my intuitive thing. It works. It works. We just get good stuff sometimes.
That's awesome. Like, what kind of stuff do you get?
I will get as evidence or me in my head, what I'll
Hmm.
hear. Which one do you want to know?
Either or is fine.
Well, he was out of jail one time and
Mhm.
I was persistently feeling like I was being stabbed in my ribs. And I chalked it up for a while, like, maybe I just had some gas pains or something, but it was not going away. So I finally had to say something to him, and he didn't quite notice it. And I was sensing that it had to do with a specific bunk in this cell. And I don't even think it was really addressed for quite a few minutes, if at all, but then it was later confirmed by somebody who ran the paranormal tours and programs at this location that there was somebody stabbed in that area. It's cool stuff like that. Like,
Wow.
I wouldn't have known that. It wasn't on some kind of
Right.
type up that they did for the location. It was like a little known fact about the place.
That's pretty cool.
It
Wow.
was cool. I like the validation.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're doing something like that, and you're sitting, you're sitting back and you're getting all of this, and then to be able to validate that later on, and that's got to be a good feeling.
It is, because I see myself as a person who's just delivering a message. I am not entitled to know what it means.
Right.
I'm just basically a telephone to relay that message to someone that needs to hear it. So I don't know what it means. I love that validation and when it all comes together.
So we got two more questions.
Sure.
Karen says, is anyone else in your family, like brothers or sisters, mother, father, do they have any of this ability other than your daughters?
No, I don't have any siblings. And if either of my parents have this ability, they have never admitted it to me. I think it may come from my father's, like my great grandmother on my father's side.
Right.
But I have no way of proving that. That's just my gut instinct.
Brady has another question. Wow, that's pretty interesting. He says, were you able to develop or grow your gift by yourself naturally through investigations and building on yourself, or did you consult like other external spiritual means such as a spirit guide?
Both and all. I did some workshops and training when I was in my early 20s. And then I did some work on trying to reach out to like spirit guides. We typically believe that we have helpers, whether they be angels, spirit guides, stuff like that. You get to know them and then listen to them. And then also just like a lot of practice and learning to trust yourself and not think you're crazy when you're hearing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying it no matter what has been the biggest payoff of all.
Now I hear this word spirit guide all the time. I hear, is a spirit guide like an angel? Is it is it a spirit? I mean, is it just energy? Is it God talking to you? What is this thing called a spirit guide?
A spirit guide is supposed to be somebody who's learned enough. They used to be a living person that died sometime before you're born and has kind of been enlightened in things that need to be known, like the path in your life, and come to you and guide you and make sure that you stay on your path and go the right way. And then angels are, angels, and they're more protective and they give you energy and protection and come in if things get really ugly to help.
Gotcha. Why I feel bad for my spirit guide.
Yeah,
if I have
be a little
one.
confused.
So,
but everybody has spirit guides, though, not just people who are able to hear them and see them.
Oh, okay. So it's not just okay, that's interesting. Expound on that a little bit, because now you got me interested in that, because I don't know, like, how would you know who it is, or how would you know how to listen?
You don't.
I mean, how do you open yourself up to stuff like that?
Yeah, you typically don't recognize it. Let's say you're leaving work and you get home and you realize that there was like a major accident, like a fatal car crash, the same path you were just on, but it happened 2 minutes after you went by.
Yeah, but that could be just coincidental.
It could be. But if you're talking about the spiritual side of the world and your beliefs, that could have been, hey, that's why you had to go to the bathroom 2 minutes, took those 2 minutes before you left work. It might be a spirit guide coming and kind of guiding you, like, it's not your time to go yet. So let me throw in this little bit of a distraction so you don't end up in that situation. That's just like one example. Another one might be when you happen to meet the right person at the right time in your life and then they disappear just like as fast as they came, or you needed to help that person. Spirit guides are supposed to be in charge of organizing that, sort of making sure you're learning the lessons in life you need to learn to become a better person and eventually a better spirit yourself.
I got you. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I've had some things actually happen like that have kind of woken me up, or I've helped somebody along the way, and I have I have no idea why they just popped into such a short time, and was able to help them get on their feet and usher them back into where they needed to go. And of course, I don't talk to him or have any contact with him today, but you think about things like that, and okay, that makes sense. I'm tracking on that.
Yeah, if you believe in like a grand plan or a path that you're on, you just got to separate the logic to find that spiritual guide sort of reasoning behind stuff. But if you're thinking logic, you might always be able to explain it away as a coincidence or something like that.
So I do want to talk about your daughter. So I mean, if that's with your permission, of course.
Sure.
I do want to center the show I do want to center the show around you because you're the guest and I've talked to you numerous times. You always intrigue me, always continue to impress me and amaze me with the things that we talk about, the knowledge and, stuff that happened. And we've had some in-depth conversations as well. But anyhow, let's talk about your daughter. I mean, you say she's psychic and now I'm definitely going to watch the episode as well now that I know which episode was. And I apologize for not asking about that before. I should have, but life gets busy. But definitely going to go back and watch it. But what brought about you understanding or knowing that, oh my goodness, my daughter is psychic?
It was like a little bit at a time where she just kept doing things. Like the first memory I have is only a couple weeks old. And she's, well, not a couple weeks. She's born on Halloween, first of all, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
But by Christmas, she was kind of babbling and talking to nothing like she would us, staring at things that she was just intrigued and babbling at something that was my grandfather's. So it's like, it's like all these little things, like, it's almost like she's talking to my grandfather or talking to somebody that's not there. Yeah, just the first time mom, I don't even know what babies do. Maybe that's just normal. It was just over years of her saying things like, we had one dog and 2 family members die in the same week, right before she turned 3.
Mm-hmm.
And she's so little, and she's just telling us things that they've come to her and said. She saw them last night. They said this, they said that.
Wow.
And I honestly wish I could remember like specific examples of stuff that she would have never known. But that's just really what started to convince me about 3 years old, that she's not just imagining things. She has no way of knowing that.
Wow, that's crazy. Now that she's a little bit older and you're able to explain and she can, obviously understand a little bit more. I understand she's still young, but is she able to grasp the concept that you're talking about with as far as being psychic, as far as being
heck yeah.
Having a gift?
Yeah, by 7, up between baby and 7, I never brought up the paranormal in front of her. I never brought up psychic abilities.
Mm-hmm.
I never pushed a religion or a belief system on her because I wanted her to go with whatever felt natural to her.
Good.
One day at 7 years old, she came to, now she was in a Catholic school too, like for preschool at some point.
Mm-hmm.
She had not gone back into that Catholic school at that point, but she came to me like almost with her tail between her legs, so worried about my response, telling me about some of the experiences she's been having, and she just couldn't hold it in anymore. Mom, I really need to talk to you. And she was so afraid of my reaction.
Oh, wow.
And all I could say to her is like, look, it's almost like the birds and the bees talk.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's like, oh, honey, I know this was coming. It's time. Okay, sit down.
That's awesome.
And from then until 9, I believe, or 11, 7 to 11, I taught her everything I can know, but she was like way beyond what I could teach her by the time she was 11.
Wow.
She's just really strong with her
That's
abilities.
amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Karen asks in the chat, she goes, did the ability ever scare her?
Not so much the ability as just trying to make sense of what the heck is going on around her, like a specific spirits or messages or feelings that she would get would be scary.
Mm-hmm.
But she loves having the ability. She just wants complete control of the ability to not be scared.
I guess it kind of is a little chaotic, right? If I'm correct in saying that.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to figure it all out. It really is. It takes time.
And she's constantly getting bombarded, or is it just sporadic? I mean, how does it affect her everyday life?
She used to be constantly bombarded. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even in school, being distracted by seeing somebody walk down the hallway in the middle of a test.
Right.
Walking down the street, she'd see spirits. One of the best things that came out of actually doing the show Psychics Kids was her mentor teaching her how to ground and protect herself and be able to say no. She could never say no. If anybody wanted help, she was like, I got you, and would obsess over it like a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And when she learned to say no, she shut that crap off for a good 2 years, I think,
Oh,
and didn't
wow.
entertain anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then is slowly coming in and out of it now. Some days she's into it. Some days she just wants to be a kid.
Hmm. Karen
And that's
asks,
okay.
Karen asks in chat. I mean, this is amazing. Really good questions, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Karen says, "Is she open with other people about her ability, like her friends and such, or is she?" I mean, of course, now it's different, but back then it wasn't. Compared to when you and I grew up, compared to now when she's growing up.
When the show aired, she was in a Catholic school. That had to be the most awkward conversation I ever had to have with the principal.
Oh, why?
Was to let him know the show was going to air and what it was about and the backlash the entire congregation may have, or parish, I should say. But luckily
Right.
it went over well. But no, she
Good.
doesn't hide it from anybody. Every teacher she gets, she tells them right up front, look, I'm weird. You know, and they're all like, okay, honey, that's cool. And some of them are really into it. I'm surprised.
Yeah, like you said, especially with all the shows that have come on and now people are more susceptible to it than they were like back in our days, where our grandmother, grandfather, they would say, oh, just ignore that, it's nothing, or that's
Right.
you're crazy, we're gonna put you in we're gonna lock you up.
No, thank goodness she doesn't have to go through that, except once in a while I'm a little too logical and she's yells at me. She's like, no, Mom, I know what's going on. Don't. I'm like, all right.
So, getting a little existential, ladies and gentlemen, we're probably going to go over. Yeah, we will go over a little bit because of having the technical difficulties in the beginning. Again, I apologize for that. So we'll probably go 15 minutes over the top of the hour because I do like to do an hour-long show. So, get a little bit deep into the conversation here. What are your beliefs, being who you are, and talking with your daughter and who she is, and being able to communicate with different types of spirits and energies? What are your beliefs? Is there an afterlife? Is this just energy? Is there a place that we go, or are we all just in limbo? I mean, give us some insight on your thoughts on that.
Well, my thoughts are always changing, to be honest. Just
Right,
like
right.
when you're investigating, your mind changes a lot depending on what happens to you.
Oh, that's the truth.
And there's just certain things we're not meant to know until we're ready to know them. So at this point, my belief is 100% yes, there's an afterlife. I can't really explain why some people are kind of stuck in an unhappy afterlife and just reliving such a horrible time that they
Mm-hmm.
went through. I don't have a definitive answer for that.
Okay.
I do believe in past lives, like multiple lives, reincarnation, and learning as in each lifetime, learning new lessons and paying for mistakes you've had in the past and learning how to be a better person till you eventually maybe become a spirit guide yourself and help other people. But yeah, I don't really have a good answer, but
Have
I
you
do
ever
believe there's
asked?
something else.
Have you ever asked?
No, I just feel like I'm not meant to know that information. It's too big. It's too much for a human brain to process. I get
So,
little bits and pieces, and I feel very thankful for those little bits and pieces.
so you think, and again, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this and understand this because I'm completely oblivious to a lot of this. So you don't want to know, or you're just being respectful to them, or maybe it just hasn't broached the question, or I mean, what? Help me understand this.
I think I would love to know how it all works,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that there's a reason that we can't really conceptualize and understand it as a whole. So maybe
Okay.
path in this lifetime is to be compassionate towards a certain area, but other people may have a different area that they have to learn lessons in. And eventually, maybe when you die, it all comes together and makes sense. But I just don't think as a living human, we're able to process the entirety of how everything works on the other side, because it'd just be downright dangerous to try and manipulate the way things are meant to be to suit
Right.
our own purposes with our human instincts. I don't think they mesh.
That's actually a pretty good explanation. Probably the best. That is the best explanation I've ever had. Anybody with this particular gift tell me or answer that question in that context, because I often think about this, and I asked, I when I'm out doing my investigations, one of the first questions I ask is there an afterlife? Is there a God? Is there a Jesus? Is there a devil? Are there demons? What happens when you die? And so on and so forth. And sometimes we get some answers. We don't know if some of them are just the spirits messing with us,
Right?
or
You never really know.
you never really know if it's serious. When we did ask about is God real, there was this, and it echoed across multiple frequencies on the spirit box, so it wasn't radio. I'm talking like a good 5 to 6 seconds on the spirit box. It went over. It says, "I am God. I am here." And it's said that like 5 seconds. It was like, "I am God. I am here." But it was like real low. It wasn't guttural. Didn't feel evil. Didn't sound evil. But it was just kind of interesting. Again, we don't know what it was, and we have no explanation for it. That happened at the church. But a lot of
Interesting
things.
location for that.
I'm connected to that church some way, somehow, and that church it's got a hold on me, and it won't let go, and I don't want it to let go, because I love going there and investigating and talking and getting what we get. Every time we go in there, we get something. It never disappoints. But awesome. Back to you. When we pass, okay, and you get a chance to, or your daughter or yourself get a chance to communicate with these spirits, what are some of the things that do they just like, for example, if you're just sitting there, do they reach out to you sometimes, or is it mainly just during investigations for the spirits that are there during those investigations? How does this all come about with how you not only do this investigation, but how do you handle this in everyday life?
It's very random. It's usually when you're not looking and not paying attention. It's like, unless I'm in an investigation, of course I'm looking then. But a lot of times before an investigation, the spirits will know you're coming. So I may see them, I may hear them, I may have a dream. They all have their preferred ways of communicating. Some of them like to come through dreams. That's the easiest, most common way.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them will just walk right through my bedroom.
Wow. That's got to be scary.
I'm used to it, but I'm desensitized.
I was going to say you're probably desensitized, because I can relate to that, because when we were first doing this, every little thing would make you jump or scare the crap out of you. And now, whereas before we were running from shadow figures, we run towards them now. That sounds crazy. It sounds nuts, but we're literally chasing it around with an EMF detector as opposed to what was happening before or whatever we've. So yeah, I can relate to the whole being desensitized to it.
Yeah, I lived in a haunted place for 5 straight years
in
my young 20s. So essentially, like, on my own. Like, I had a roommate, but then Adam lived with me for a good 3 or 4 of the years too. But there are times where you're alone, and you learn real quick how to just cope with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still a sucker. I cannot be jump scared. I can't watch horror movies. My own kids pop around the corner when I'm not expecting them. I will scream and pull the hands back like I'm ready to fight. I am so quickly startled, but I can see a ghost walk through the room and be like, look, I'm tired. Go away.
Oh my.
Come back tomorrow.
That's crazy. So speaking of Adam, when you first met him, and how did you approach it to him, and was he pretty accepting in the beginning, or did it take him time to warm up to the idea and actually see it for himself?
He's 100% been about it From Lador. I don't even remember our first conversation, but he's always embraced like my super artistic and spiritual side and my love of everything like music and art and everything. And it all blends together. There's never been that one moment. But then, of course, when paranormal shows started coming out, we were all about it. We went and got one of those TiVos so we could
Oh yeah.
record stuff and watch them later, which was a big expense for how poor we were.
I remember TiVos. I love TiVos.
Oh, that was like the best thing ever to be able to play those shows back. But we kind of grew into it together as far as like being publicly open about it. I've always been into it. Him more so once he met me, I think. But he's never made me feel weird about it. He's always been my biggest cheerleader with my abilities.
That's awesome to have somebody like that, and you know, to have somebody in your corner. He seems like a really great guy. I talk to him quite often on Facebook, and I can't wait to meet you guys in person someday. Hopefully here soon.
It should be soon. Yes.
Good. So, all right, let's get a little serious now. Not that we haven't been, but let's get a little more serious. All right.
You keep going deeper and deeper.
I tell you, the rabbit hole goes deep and it keeps going deeper and deeper.
There's nothing I love more than a rabbit hole, so go for it.
The state of the world that's happening around us today. All right. You hear folks talk about, man, we're in the beginning of the end times. We're, you know, the world has never been as worse as it's been, you know, these days. And people are meaner. They're more evil than,
They've always been evil.
Yeah. I mean, and of course they've always been evil, but people seem to like have this perception that the evil is more present these days, that, you know, the end of the times is coming. And I mean, what do you say? Have you gotten any of that from, can any of the folks that talk to you from the other side give you any insight, or do they ever give you any insight on things about that? And what do you think about what's going on? Are we in end times, or is it just another phase that we're going through?
It's an upheaval. It's uncomfortable, but it's not the end of everything. We've, as a world, we've been through these countries overtaking other countries, taking land. It's just it's a common theme in history. It's ugly, it's horrible, but that's human nature, is to want power and to control other people. Right. That's how human beings are, and we have not evolved out of that yet. I'd like to think we're getting closer to evolving out of that than we've ever been in the past, as opposed to it actually being the end of everything.
Right.
But there's a few people on this planet that could end everything if they don't watch what they're doing. But I don't think that's where we're headed at all. It's just another awful time in history.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So back to the first part of my question. During the course of your life, especially when you first started doing this, or even when you started doing, you know, throughout your whole lifetime, has any of these spirits ever given you any insight? I'm not saying necessarily telling you the future or anything like that, but have they ever given you any insight as to about anything?
You mean just like any premonition at all?
Yeah, like any type of permission saying, listen, this is what's going to happen in the world, or watch out for this, or you know, I'm talking about world event wise, you know, historical type stuff. I'm sure a lot of personal stuff they've warned you about, but like on a bigger scale.
The only one that, first of all, my belief on that is you're only given information that you're meant to have in order to do something you're meant to do. So that's why psychics don't get the winning lottery number. It's self-serving. I have no reason to know the information of what's coming up in the future unless there's something I can do about it, and I'm meant to do that.
Right.
So technically for me, not a lot, but there was one time in high school I was doing, like, you know how people do automatic writing? I was doing automatic drawing. I was just swirling on the paper, not paying attention to class at all, bored as anything, just drawing with my eyes closed to see what it looked like when I was done. And it looked like a train crash, like it fell off a bridge into water, and like a derailment situation with some smoke and stuff. It happened, but I don't typically get messages because I can't go out and save the world about big things, you know?
Right. So you remote view. That's basically what you're talking about.
I have.
Oh,
I can
wow.
remote view a lot, but I'm not an astral project sort of person, but I can remote view. Yeah.
Explain that, and give the audience a short version on that, because a lot of the folks don't know. Like you and I have talked. I know what remote viewing is, but a lot of the guys and girls listening probably don't.
Okay, so the best example I can think of is when you're reading a book and you can picture the setting, the people, their clothing, all of that in your mind. It's essentially the same thing. It's just the ability to see a location that somebody else is in. Say they lost their ring, and you can kind of tour around their house and see their home and say, oh, it's in the top dresser drawer.
Mm-hmm.
It's that sort of thing versus actually projecting myself there and being able to interact with the environment and fly there and not be here anymore.
Gotcha.
It's just viewing into it.
Oh, okay. So like kind of like a picture-in-picture, but in your mind.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty. Okay, that's I mean, it's still remote viewing, but I mean that's pretty good explanation. So we've had this conversation. Yeah, we're getting deeper in the rabbit hole here. We've had this conversation a few times. We haven't really been able to delve into it, intellectually. So I wanted to kind of talk about this today. Now, I understand people believe in what they believe in. And I want to, put this little disclaimer out there. I'm not disparaging anybody on what they believe or who they believe in or what they believe in or who they worship or what they worship, so on and so forth. This is just a question that I'm gauging my guest, and we're going to talk about. Devils and demons.
Uh-huh.
And any of your travels in the spirit world, have they led you to believe that there are such things?
I know there's some really horrible and some really wonderful things out there.
Mm-hmm.
I have never 100% adopted, yes, there's a God and yes, there's a devil.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say I believe in demons and angels.
Okay.
And a lot of people are just want to rip my throat out and be like, how can there be those without that all supreme being that rules them? Well, maybe there isn't one. Maybe they're a collective, and when they come together, they are that supreme being. I could be wrong. I have never experienced the devil or God, but I have experienced what I believe to be angels. Not sure if I've experienced demons, but it was pretty freaking nasty. So close enough. All I need to see.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I'll leave it at that. I don't know for sure, but that's my belief.
So the overall good versus evil thing, is that just a fallacy that's, controlled religion is trying to pander down to society? Or do you really believe that there is this overall good versus evil, and has any
100% good versus evil, but it's not the way the structured religion would have you believe.
Okay. Can you expound on that?
I would say that there's way too much in religion that has been created to benefit selfish humans that are living.
Right.
And that's just not the way it really works, because none of that power, none of that money matters on the other side.
So what is the good versus evil? What do you think is happening?
I think it's a balance that needs to be maintained. And evil is always trying to get more power and more control. And good is always just trying to knock it back down into its place. And there are certain events, people that are put on this earth, spirits that are running around that are in charge of making sure that balance stays in place. But evil's goal is ultimately to take over and not have that balance anymore.
That's interesting. On the grand scheme things, you see this, and again, I'm not saying anybody in particular. This is a generalization about what I'm about to ask. You see these shows or people out there in the paranormal field. We've all experienced this, including myself. I talked about it numerous times on my show. Who are out there faking the funk and saying that there is this battle against evil, and we have to diminish these demons and devils, and the angels are coming down, and so on and so. People watch this and they take this in and they believe this stuff. When I see this guy throwing holy water all over, and again, I understand it's what you believe in, throwing holy water all over the house and saying, demons be gone and devils be gone and evil be gone. And like he's conquering some new nation. He or she is conquering some new nation and sending, the devil back to hell, when in all actual reality, it's really not happening. I mean, what do you have to
he's
say
just
to that?
pissing them off. That's all. As far as I'm concerned, people that approach it in that manner are just pissing off whatever's evil. They're not getting rid of it. They're not beating it. They may weaken it. They may make it be laughing at them. I don't think that's how it works. I think you have to be deeper than that, rather than just putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
Putting on a show while getting rid of evil is never going to work.
Gotcha. I happen to agree with you on that. A lot of the times we go into these investigations, you hear folks, the first thing that they say is, "Oh, I have a demon in my closet," or "I got a demon in my attic," or a demon in my basement. And I haven't been in it quite as long as you or other folks have, so I've only seen a limited amount. But the things that I have seen are just phenomenal. I mean, we've caught some stuff on film. We experienced some things on with our REM pod. I'm still flabbergasted about that.
Amazing.
We've heard voices. I've gotten touched. I've gotten prodded. I've seen numerous shadow figures. Chad and I had a few experiences. Ghost Bait and I have had a few experiences. Ghost and I have had a few experiences together as well. And like you said, it just more and more questions. Now, do they see us? Is it to them, and what you know of them? They're always walking around us, or is it just sporadic when they want to? How in your world, to help me understand what exactly you see and feel, and what maybe your daughter sees and feels, what's happening? What's going on around you?
I think it depends on the spirit. Some can come and go. We've had spirits show up at Scott's house and 3 seconds later are setting off equipment at my house or on location at my house. There's just no time and space like we have here. They can just be anywhere immediately or in 2 places at once. My daughter's more the one out of the both of us that sees a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm too easily jump scared. I've specifically asked not to see stuff unless I need to.
Gotcha.
But you think about all the people on this planet that have walked these grounds before us and have died. I'm sure they're everywhere. They're everywhere, but they're not all doing the same thing. They're not all here for the same reason. They're coming and going. They're not always trapped. But there's just a lot of dead people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So technically you could run into one at Walmart and it's just wouldn't surprise me at all. So
what do you think happens when you die?
Depends on who you are and what you need to do next. If you need to learn more lessons, maybe you're reincarnated.
Okay.
Maybe your path is not to learn more lessons and evolve, and you just retire into heaven and have a grand old time. Maybe you just suck really bad and nobody wants you and you get stuck here.
Right.
And sometimes you're just, I don't know if there's a hell per se, but I would say there's somewhere that spirits go when they're not hanging out with us, whether that's heaven or something else. I don't know. And these are all just my beliefs. Please, I hope nobody takes the impression that I'm like giving them the definitive answers to the other side. This is just what I've come to over the years. But I really think it just depends on what the goal is for you in this life or other lives where you end up going.
That's pretty interesting. So where do you see this all going? Knowing what you know now and, coming up, this year, especially since COVID has hit, the world's been in upheaval. There's war. There's, people are physically and mentally and spiritually, people are really in a bad place. Can you guys feel that happening around you?
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's also part of growth. Growth is always uncomfortable. So the more uncomfortable you feel about what's going on right now, the more compassionate of a person you are, and the more lessons that you're learning to take with you in the rest of this lifetime or next. If you're just not even worried about it at all, you're not going to be doing so much growing.
Gotcha.
It's uncomfortable to go through these changes.
So you think the world is just evolving physically and spiritually all at the same time?
Yeah, it's a little out of balance and it needs to be rebalanced.
Gotcha. So did you hear my stories in the beginning?
I did. About
Um,
you as a kid?
yeah. Any thoughts on that? I'm curious because nobody's been able to tell me anything specifically or whether or not I believe them anyhow. But nobody's been able to even. And maybe this is a sidebar we probably need to do or something. Because it's this is the show. It kind of just hits you all at once in the beginning, but those experiences are the reason that those are the driving force of me getting into this field.
Right. So you both have discussed this and you both say you saw the same thing.
Yes, verbatim. Yep.
Okay. I would say the one thing that stuck out in my mind when listening to that is spirits have the ability to present themselves in whatever way they need to connect with you in the way they mean to. So you said it, you described it as being cartoon-like.
Right.
If it would have showed up maybe in any other form, it would have been way more scarier.
Okay.
So as children, it's really cool that you guys could corroborate that story together and you both saw the same thing. And in my opinion, whatever the intention was, they couldn't have got that point across if they didn't look like something that you guys would want to see or a little familiar, a little comforting. And then with the one outside your window telling you need to go to sleep, my impression was a family member just trying to like have you not feel the wrath of your mother if you kept her awake too much longer or raised too much hell.
Okay.
It's the impression that I got. I cannot prove it that I'm right.
Right.
And why they would be stuck outside the window instead of just coming on in, I don't know.
It almost
was looking out for you.
Okay, good. Because I mean, I wasn't really. I mean, I was at first I wasn't scared, but then of course, when it yelled at me, I was kind of I freaked out and ran. But to me, it more looked like an alien than anything. And I hate to corroborate aliens and paranormal, but the fields intersect a lot.
They do.
And it reminded me of that. The more I thought about it later on in life, it reminded me of some type of alien. I've never been abducted or anything like that, or never seen aliens. And I've seen some.
Did you audibly hear it, or did you hear it in your mind?
Oh no, I audibly heard it. It scared the living hell out of me.
Typically, aliens will do it telepathically. From what I've heard, more so than like actually speaking to you. So makes me think maybe not alien so much as spirit.
Okay, all right.
But I wasn't there.
Right. Like I said, I'm still back to square one.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I have all the answers.
No, and then I didn't expect you to. I just, but you have given me a little bit more clarity on it than a lot of the others that I've talked to before. I've had somebody tell me that I was talking to two slaves from the Civil War one time, talking to a shadow figure, which was a devil, and all this other stuff. So, and I'm like, yeah, I don't believe in it. I don't believe I was talking to any of those. I could, you could feel certain things, and I can, my intuition kind of kicks in a little bit sometimes, and it doesn't lead me to believe that that's anything. Well, it's funny that you said that, because my grandfather on my mother's side did die prior to, probably about 4 months prior to that. So.
Oh yeah, that's a good time though for them to come back and visit too. About 4 months.
Yeah, and I was his pick of the litter, so he was real specially protective of me. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay, something to think about.
He was stuck out there though.
I don't know.
Poor guy.
I don't know. Well, so I got two more questions and then we'll end the show. All right.
Okay.
Where do you think we should go from here as human beings on talking more spiritually, from that perspective, more of the physical realm? Because we know about the physical realm. We know about mental health. We know about, what the body can do, but we never really talk spiritually. So what do you think from your perspective and being able to communicate with those from the beyond? I'm sure they've maybe given you some insight on this. What can we do as human beings to be better spiritually?
Be more open-minded and compassionate. And I think we're headed that way. It just seems really slowly.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people nowadays, practicing witchcraft or Wiccan or even voodoo openly these days. I think organized religion, the way we know it, is kind of sliding downhill, at least here in America and other countries that practice the free speech that we have. Maybe not across the entire world, but there is like a movement towards becoming a little more spiritual and answering to yourself more than one all-powerful being
Mm-hmm.
that I'm seeing happen. But I don't think in our lifetime we're going to totally switch over to some kind of enlightened spiritualism. It would just be too hard for too many people to handle at this point.
Yeah, I still think humanity's stuck in their ways.
Yeah, and I don't think they'll ever change, at least not without some help and a lot of uncomfortable things happening.
Right. So, two more questions. I know I said two more ago, but I got two more questions. This is such a great conversation. You read people.
I like if I think they're like a good person or a bad person.
Yes.
Oh, I suck at that, believe it or not.
Well, I wouldn't say you suck at it. You just give people more chances than they deserve. I'm the same way. I'm guilty of the same displeasure.
I always see the good in people and make them my pets and try and help them.
Mm-hmm.
I get in trouble a lot for it.
Well, the reason why I said that is because you said something to me about being a discerner. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Explain what that is again. And that to me is like you're able to understand people on a more spiritual and more intimate level as far as spirituality is concerned. Sorry, I butchered that word.
That's okay. Well, seers and discerners go together, and seers in typical, Catholic faith, a seer would be somebody who knows that like something has to happen. A discerner would be what led up to that point and what's going to happen afterwards, kind of like the why is going to happen. And knowing if somebody has good intentions or bad intentions are a big part of being a discerner, because you can discern whether or not this person has the best interest of the situation at heart or their own interests. So you can help a seer, and a seer can help a discerner.
Right. What would you classify yourself as?
Neither. No, because this is just a very specific thing. And it has a lot to do with like organized religion.
Okay.
Like I said, everybody on this planet has a certain reason for being here.
Right.
And that may be yours, but it's not mine. Cassie has been told that she is one. And one of the first crazy things she ever did when she was like 2-3 years old would be go to the other side when she was trying to fall asleep and while she was sleeping, and when she went to preschool. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
she
you're good.
went to Catholic preschool and she learned about God and Jesus, and she was going over there and apparently getting some advice from Jesus and God on a regular basis about what she needs to do and fighting all kinds of horrible things. And she's 3 years old talking about this stuff. This is what she did in her sleep, was like fight evil. I'm like,
wow.
And then later in life, people walk up to her and they're like, you're a seer, right? And I'm like, Jesus, this is crazy.
Wow, you must be a proud mother.
I just gave birth to her.
That's amazing. I mean, it's such an amazing story. I could see why A&E wanted to talk to the both of you. Not only is it an amazing story, to me, when you listen to this and you listen to you talk about your daughter and listen to both, you explain about both of your experiences and how things came about and some of the things that you've also done. It's just, it kind of gives humanity a little bit of hope,
Oh, well, if I can do anything in my lifetime, that would be it. Just give people a little hope and help out where I can. That's the point of me being here, I believe.
Okay. So if you had a chance to tell, if you had a chance to be in front of all of humanity at this moment.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm not good with being the center of attention.
Coming on my show, I was going to say something like this. But hypothetically speaking, if you were able to be that person and they gave you a chance to say one thing to humanity, what would it be?
Stop being assholes. Everybody's being an asshole to everybody else.
I second that motion. All right. And my last question, I heard that you have a haunted spoon.
Oh God, here we go. It's possessed. Yes. It's possessed. My spoon vessel.
It used to be a serial killer. No, anyhow. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a little inside joke. So is there anything you want to tell our audience before we close up shop here, Chris?
I'm always here to help. Like if anybody has any more questions or just needs a little insight or guidance, I'm here.
Wow, what a great time that I had today. We very well could have went on another hour or two talking about things, and perhaps we'll do a follow-up show. As a matter of fact, we will do a follow-up show, and perhaps we'll even dive down into the rabbit hole even a little bit
awesome.
More. Christy,
let's
thanks.
Investigate too.
Yes, yeah, I can't wait for that as well. I cannot wait for that. Thank you for coming on. I know it's a Sunday evening, and you got a lot of stuff to do, but I appreciate you taking the time out to come on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
No problem, and you're welcome back anytime. Ladies and gentlemen, Christy, thank you for coming on, Christy.
Yep, bye.
Take care. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. What a show, huh? What an amazing guest. I'm definitely going to have her back on here real soon. I would love to talk to her, even get more in depth into the rabbit hole. And it's nice to talk to people, not only on an intellectual level, but on more of a spiritual level as well, because they can give you insight on things that you might not have. Like she gave me a little bit of insight tonight on what possibly could have happened during my childhood that nobody. In my many years, I'm 25 years old, so my many years that I've been alive here, I wish I was 25, but my many years that I've been alive here on this earth, nobody has been able to give me not one iota of insight on my little experience, and made me think of tonight, and I really appreciate that. So thanks everybody. Salutes to each and every one of you out there. Great job, Christy. We'll have you on again. And remember, guys, don't share this link. Only share this link out with the folks that you wanted to come in here. I will put out a download link here probably within the hour. So salutes everyone. God bless you. Take care, and we'll see you on the flip side.